Quite a while back, one of you asked me to shoot a video on the link between sex and intellectual giftedness. This person asked me if intellectually gifted people are more sexually active than the non-gifted. Are we? Well, it was difficult to find the answer to this question, and the answer isn't straight. Or maybe it is. Anyway, here's my take on it based on what I found. Let's get to it. The first thing I found was an article on the fact that highly intelligent people have less sex than everyone else. Sociologist Rosemary Hopcroft said in a 2011 article for Psychology Today that intelligence is negatively associated with sex frequency. It's a bit dismaying. Hopcroft said that people who have attended higher education institutions are less likely to have sex on a frequent basis and have less sexual partners than those who have not. Her contentions were confirmed by a joint sex survey by MIT and Wellesley College that found that a high IQ can delay sexual activity in early adulthood. Why is that? Well, smart people having less sex and starting to have sex later in life can be attributable to any number of things. People with higher IQs may take into consideration the negative consequences of risky sexual behavior more than their peers of average intelligence. They could also just be too busy studying and working to find time for sexual relationships with others, or they could be lacking in good looks. Who knows? Science has yet to prove any of these things to be true. Something I noticed about the article was that the word gifted never occurred in it. In fact, this article wasn't necessarily about gifted students, but about students with a high IQ. And that's not necessarily the same thing. But let's disregard that for a while and take in the fact that this article could be about gifted people as well. That would mean that we, the gifted, have less sex because we have an intelligence level which is above average. That makes me think of sensual overexcitability though. Doesn't that play a role? Does every gifted person have sensual overexcitability? And how does that influence our sex drive? Well, wait. Let's start from scratch. So the article I just told you about said that highly intelligent people have less sex. I refuse to believe that though, at least when it concerns the gifted, because the article doesn't say anything about the gifted who have sensual overexcitability and what effect this sensual overexcitability has on our sex drive. So to answer the question, are the gifted more sexually active? Let's start with explaining sensual overexcitability. What is it? Casimir Stabrowski, who was a Polish psychiatrist and psychologist, identified 5 types of overexcitability, and sensual overexcitability is one of them. So what exactly is it? Well, people with sensual overexcitability receive more input from their senses than expected. This could show up as a strong reaction to sound, smells, light, and textures or tastes. As you can see here, this woman's reaction is positive. She has a desire to continue experiencing a sensation. But it can also be negative. Then it drives the person away from the stimulus. As a child, someone might love rubbing a satin blanket on their face. As an adult, they go to sleep easier when they have the pressure of a thick blanket. These odd quirks might be a result of sensual overexcitability. And gifted people who have sensual overexcitability will have more sex because they are able to enjoy it a lot more. At least, that's what I believe. Does every gifted person have sensual overexcitability though? Well, in 2001, a study examined the relationship among giftedness, gender, and overexcitability, and its results show that especially gifted females scored higher on sensual overexcitability. According to Dabrowski, it is important to emphasize that not all gifted individuals have overexcitabilities. However, we do find more people with overexcitabilities in the gifted population than in the average population. So please keep that last thing in mind too, that non-gifted people can also experience overexcitabilities and thus sensual overexcitability. Before we get lost, let me summarize the answer to my last question. Does every gifted person have sensual overexcitability? The answer is no. Not every gifted person has sensual overexcitability, but I believe a lot of us do. Let's go back to the central question of this video. Are gifted people more sexually active than non-gifted people? Well, the gifted child who needed the label cut from his shirt so it wouldn't distract him all day may, as a teenager or young adult, experience sex with his lover as an ecstatic, almost spiritual union because of his sensual overexcitability. One young man, a senior in an accelerated academic high school program who was gifted with sensual overexcitability, described his experience of sex as an incredible sensual exploration. It takes me from the mundane, closed-in world of homework and rules to this blissful place beyond words, beyond physical limitations. Finally, a young woman who graduated from college at 18 years old commented that, in her experience, her highly gifted peers seemed to experience sex in a fuller, more multidimensional way than their age peers because her highly gifted peers also had sensual overexcitability. So, this is why I believe that if you are gifted with sensual overexcitability, there's a great chance you are more sexually active in your life because having sex gives you a pleasure so divine it becomes an intrinsic and essential part of your life. But then again, let's say you are gifted but without sensual overexcitability. That's completely normal too. There are plenty of gifted people who don't have sensual overexcitability. So let's say you are gifted but without sensual overexcitability. You might have less sex than someone with an average intelligence because, let's say, your intellectual overexcitability is so strong, you become so engrossed in learning and your own intellectual development that you simply don't care so much about sex. That's what I believe. And there, dear viewer, I believe I gave you your answer. This information came from these websites. You'll find these links below this video. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel and watch this series from the start. Next Friday, no, not next Friday, in 2 weeks, I should say it like this. In 2 weeks, I'll be back. I'll be back with a new video in my series on intellectual giftedness. No, I just gave you that. I'll be back with a new video in my series on Swedish slave trade. Till then, I only want to say 3 things. Thank you for watching. Take care, and bye for now.